How we doing, folks? My guest today is going to be Chuck Martin. Really excited to have Chuck on. He's a former Olympian and freestyle mogul skier. He not only skied on the World Cup Tour, he also skied on the Pro Tour. He's a four-time World Pro Tour champion. Went to the Olympics in 1992. Three-time national champion, over 90 World Cup starts, 8 podiums, bronze medalist at World Championships in 1991, and also a huge inspiration for me personally. Spent a lot of time in the coaching world, and now he's the FIS coach for Winter Park. He also started a mogul skiing camp called Mogul Logic and ran that up at Blackcomb Glacier for about 12 years with his wife, KB. So super excited to have him on. We had a great chat, and I really hope you folks enjoy this episode. Thanks. Rolling. There it is. Chuck, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's great to see you, and great to join you.
Yeah, no, for me personally, for those out there, I mean, you're a huge inspiration to me, and not only as an athlete, but also as I've kind of gone into this path of coaching, hugely inspirational. I got some surprises for you. I still have a bunch of my Mogul Logic notes from the years of camp 2004, 2005. It was those camps, super influential. You've always been a great tool and someone to kind of reach out it's funny. I know it's proprietary Mogul Logic information from back in the day, but I definitely lean into it. And there's several great gems that I've taken from it over the years. So I really, really thank you for how much you've helped throughout my career.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think as a camper, and what has made you successful, I think, in coaching at a World Cup at a national team level is your curiosity. You've always been curious, and when you were at camp, you always asked lots of questions, and you were curious, and you really wanted to know what was going on. You wanted to know the details, and that's a great quality that has led you to where you've gone to.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. But I want to hear from you. Let's just kind of go through some of that starting out process. It's one of those things, super interesting for me to kind of find out some of the roots and some of the history of the sport. I mean, I've done some digging, but I'd like to hear your words.
Yeah. So yeah, so you want to hear about where I started?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up in Killington, Vermont. I was a local kid. One of the few. Killington still is a very small town. It's grown some, but my parents moved there in the '60s when there was really nothing there. The ski area was just starting. So I grew up there, later than the '60s, but I was a local kid. And most of the people, almost everybody I skied with, everybody was from Boston or New York or Connecticut. And they had houses there or condos there. And, for me, there just wasn't a lot of other things to do really when I was younger. And I just, I got caught up in the team, got caught up in my teammates and all these kids from outside of Vermont that we all bonded on the team, and then that team grew to be a really amazingly successful team with Bobby Aldegari, Steve Desovich, Liz McIntyre, Maggie Connor, Donna Weinbrecht, John Witt. We just had this really amazing group think going on there. So in the '92 Olympics, 5 out of 8 of the U.S. team members were from Killington in 1992. And so I think the team was a huge part of my success. And I think with that team, it was cool to work hard. it was cool to do your best and to work hard, and
Hmm.
guys like Steve Destovich and Bobby Aldegari, like who I know, well. I think Bobby's been on your
Yeah.
show. I don't know if Steve has. Steve would be a good one to have on your show.
I've tried to have him on. So
Yeah,
we'll
okay.
maybe in the future, but I've tried to get
Yeah,
Steve on here. But that's amazing. I mean it sounds it's so interesting that you talk about that groupthink when it's such an individual sport, right? But
right.
then you have that group and I know Des and Steve. I mean, that's an unbelievable 5 out of 8. It's pretty incredible, and they all had fantastic careers, including yourself. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think we were just talking about Winter Park and how Winter Park's still open, and um, we would ski at Killington until we were literally skiing over mud from patch to patch, patch of snow to patch of snow. We would ski until the very end. Um, and we would, I would go out because Bobby and Steve were out there, and I'm like, I know, I got to go meet them. We got to go skiing. I mean, we were always out there. We pushed each other,
Hmm.
and it was cool to work hard and be out there all the time. That was cool. I don't always find that nowadays when I'm coaching with some of the athletes. But yeah, we had a really good group think there, and then I think for myself, I am just the kind of person that I will get into one thing,
Hmm.
and I will focus on one thing, and I will work on the details of one thing, and want to break it down into its details and parts.
Hmm.
And I'm willing. I think for a lot of successful athletes and people, they're able to break things down into details and parts and kind of see the parts and then work on those parts individually,
Yeah.
um, and deal with a little bit of boredom to work on one thing over and over and over again.
Hmm.
And I think I've always been able to do that. But I think with skiing, yeah, being able to break it down and get out there day after day and work on the same things over and over again is something that I've always been able to do.
And I mean, it's funny how a lot of these times, like that's not really the sexy answer that people kind of want to hear, right? The details and the parts and the monotonous aspects of going out and kind of doing drills and all those things like over and over again. But that's really what, how you make your bread, right?
Well, I think you have to see it. You have to be able to see those tasks
Hmm.
and have confidence that that is the task to be working on. It's going to help you achieve your goal. And I think
Hmm.
some people don't see the breakdown of tasks. Somebody might
Right.
help. Coaches will help them. Teachers will help them.
Sure.
And certainly for me, um, teachers and coaches have helped me to do that.
So being able to see like some of those tasks, what do you mean? Like, I guess we'll go obviously ski wise. I mean, is that something body position or how is that kind of that, I guess, change now? I mean, now you're back coaching full time with Winter Park and obviously you're dealing with I mean, you've always kind of been involved in coaching part time here and there, but now to be fully back in, I'm sure it's probably a pretty big change in athlete and dynamic that you're dealing with there since earlier on. I mean, I know it's changed in the last 5 6 years. The type of person that you deal
Yeah,
with can definitely be a little different.
yeah. Um, so what I had another thought while you were saying that.
No worries.
Just and it relates to it, but
Mhm.
getting back to the group think, um, I'd say Steve Destovich and Bob Aldegari,
Mhm.
those two, and Steve in many many ways is just the kind of person that would go out to Killington, ski rock hard bumps on outer limits all day long, come back the next day, do it again. And Kerry St. Ange, our coach, I remember, end of the year, he had 10 pair of broken Rosendal skis. They were Steve's that he was bringing back to Rosendal to get, new skis for him. but just his ability, watching him
Mm-hmm.
just out there every day, that's all he did, that like rubbed off on us, and that rubbed off on me to be able to work on one task
Gotcha.
because
Okay.
he was out there doing that. So, and then getting to specific tasks, I think skiing the flats, you got like skiing a lot of flats. We skied endless flats in the fall, icy, hard flats,
Mm-hmm.
Killington, lots of people, very crowded. But we skied a lot of flats, and worked on that body position, and just, I think the timing, nowadays with the man-made courses, it's all timing.
Yep.
And just getting repetition on short swing turns on the flats is going to just increases that natural feel and that natural timing on the transition in between the turns, and just getting that side to side timing. So that it's feel, it's not mechanical, it's feel.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. Now, how much, I mean, the one interesting aspect that's changed a lot is the aerial components are now such a bigger part of the sport. So that kind of cuts into, I feel like, some of that timing and some of the ability to be able to spend that time on the flats where, they want to be working on those higher DD or, new tricks, flipping, back fold, cork 7, any of those things. So I feel like that can start to cut into the time on the flats. It seems that, and just go like course to course. I know it's, especially a lot of the parents really just want to make sure that their athlete or their kid, is on a course, get them on a course. And it's like, well, that might not necessarily be the best thing. He's 10.
I know you're right. Right. No, I mean, even for the older guys, I think, but yeah, I mean, I tell parents that this is it. I now consider it to be an acrobatic sport.
Interesting.
This is an acrobatic sport, like flipping and twisting. And I was going to say it adds like another half of training compared to the old days, but it's probably more than that.
Mm-hmm.
To really work the flipping and twisting. And get that consistent. So there is a lot more to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. And then, I think something I encounter in coaching is, the athletes tend to think of training as only on the course. So like, okay, if we're not on the course, we're not really training. There might not be a video camera there, and we're not in this roped in environment.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that mentality nowadays where, like mogul skiing, there's a mentality that mogul skiing is only in the course.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, here in Winter Park, you go to Mary Jane, even right now, in the middle of May, Mary Jane is full of the most fun, best spring moguls in the world, hands down. They're just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's out there,
Yeah.
So, we had camps the last couple weeks, and mainly like the younger guys, got some of the younger guys out there, but I got some of the FIS group out there, and there was actually hooping and hollering going on, skiing Mary Jane, and I was like, that is mogul skiing. That was mogul skiing for me.
Right.
Growing up, we went out, we skied moguls for fun. Not necessarily fun when they were hard and icy, but springtime, spring soft bumps, buried terrain, not overly deep and abusive, just super fun.
Yeah. Spring bumps on OL.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
I mean, that was training for us. And it's even more fun here at Mary Jane.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard for me to get athletes out there to ski on it. But I'm working on that. That's up to me as a coach to do that as well. So I accept that responsibility. But I really want the sport. I want the athletes as they grow older to remember the fun of skiing moguls.
Yeah.
And to get out there and enjoy it. And that it's not just about being in the course, because the course moguls can get really deep, and pretty abusive and not that fun on a lot of days.
Yeah, most days.
Right.
Most days it's not that fun.
Yeah. So I'm kind of on a mission right now of trying to get athletes off the course and then bottom line is it's the best thing for their training.
Yeah.
Is skiing the natural bumps. They're
No,
changing
absolutely.
their timing. They're constantly adjusting that timing with pole plants and with side to side turns and with up and down absorption timing, constantly changing that. And that is improving their timing.
Yeah.
You know,
No, definitely. It's a lost art. It's funny to see some of those guys not like on a mogul course, go ski like some free bumps, even some, high World Cup level athletes. And you're like, this should be easy. This is like the fun part. This is like free. You can turn wherever you want. Double turn, triple turn, cross rod. It's totally up to you.
Right.
You get to make your choice.
Yeah.
But it does funny to see a little bit of fish out of water. But kind of going back a little bit to your career. So you have that group think and that amazing bond with that team from Killington. Then you kind of make your way onto the U.S. team. And how much different kind of was that back then? Because it's really hard to get a bunch of the information, before 1986. It really, FIS doesn't have anything on their website before 86. So that's difficult. And then you also have the Pro Mogul Tour, which doesn't exist anymore, but that was, I know 4-time champion on the Pro Mogul Tour. And so how did that kind of, those two tours and the dynamic of the late 80s, early 90s kind of exist back then?
Well, there was a big difference in that, in the early mid 80s, freestyle was combined. Mm-hmm. It was a combined sport. Right. It wasn't just moguls. It was ballet, aerials, and moguls, or, acro. Mm-hmm. And I was a combined skier. So I won the national championships as a combined skier in 1985. I was 17. That earned me a spot on the U.S. team as a combined skier. Okay. So I was doing inverted aerials, ballet or acro, and moguls. And skied on World Cup for 2 years as a combined skier. Was top 5 in the world as a combined skier. Then I blew up my knee doing inverted aerials, and then became a mogul specialist. And the sport, as it made it into the Olympics, ballet did not make it in, or acro did not make it into the Olympics.
Yep.
So it just became specialized. So it just kind of blew apart the combined. And fortunately, I had a lot of experienced ski moguls at Killington, so that worked out well for me to just focus on one event. Wasn't as much fun, I have to say.
Yeah.
Being a combined skier was really fun. There was lots of variety of skills to work on. I love that.
Yeah.
So then, and then I think, going back to Killington, it was our goal to be world champion. Mm-hmm. With Desovich and Aldegheri and Liz McIntyre and just that whole group. It was our goal to be world champion. It wasn't like a high school activity. Yeah. And I think nowadays it has kind of become a high school activity for a lot of athletes. And then when they're out of high school, they're done. But and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But for us in our group, we wanted to be world champions. It had nothing to do with high school. It had nothing to do with regional level or World Cup level. So that was what we all thought about, and that was our goal.
Yeah.
It wasn't just making the US team, it was being a world champion. Mm-hmm. That was our goal. So 85, I made the US team. Bobby made it. Steve Desovich was already on there. Liz McIntyre. Mm-hmm. Our whole group from Killington, we all went on to World Cup. Skied late 80s. And then in 1991, I won bronze medal in the World Championships. Lake Placid, 1991. Yep. That was duels. I beat Sergei Shuplitsov for that third place. He never forgot that. He always reminded me of it. And we had really uneven courses, talking about natural bumps back then. We had super uneven courses at that World Championships because they were not made by Snowcat. They were dual natural moguls.
Yeah.
And and one course was so much faster than the other.
Oh,
Just
really?
and nowadays I have athletes who are like, oh, this course is faster than the other course. I'm like, you have no idea. Like these courses are so close,
Yeah.
and they're both have the same amount of moguls. In fact, courses didn't even have the same amount of moguls back then. You're doing so. But I
Crazy.
remember that specifically in World
Hmm.
Championships, Lake Placid. Then Olympics '92.
Hmm.
I kind of thought I was going to retire. I was over the travel.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'd been on World Cup for 7 years, and I still love skiing. I love focusing on one thing,
Hmm.
something I still miss. Um, but I was over the travel. It's like I don't want to travel. I want to stay home. I want to do other things in my life.
Hmm.
Um, and then the Pro Tour was happening. I moved to Colorado, and the Pro Tour was happening. So I thought, oh, I'll go do a couple pro events, and got my first check
That's
for
pretty
public
good.
skiing, and that
Yeah.
was the beginning of Pro Tour. I was like, well, if I'm going to get paid to do this, then so
Yeah.
we got that was the heyday. I was lucky. That was the
Yeah.
window. Budweiser was the sponsor. We were on ESPN every weekend in the wintertime.
That's
We had
awesome.
like
That is the
11 events.
heyday.
Yeah, it was a heyday. We had 11 events on ESPN. And then, yeah, Budweiser got sued out of it. Just got sued out of the picture. There's lawsuits going on. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so Budweiser, I won't get into the details in the podcast, but Budweiser got sued away.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that was a bummer because I was in the lead
Yep.
for the year before, had sponsors, and it just was like talking about having
The rug
your
pulled out.
yeah, the rug pulled out from under you for all of us.
Hmm.
Um, but that was great in the '90s.
Yeah.
That was an amazing time for us to be on ESPN. That tour was really fun. Most of it was in the U.S. We went to Japan for an event. Um, but yeah, we got paid. We got paid to mogul ski.
That's
And then,
great.
and
Yeah.
then yeah, then I started a camp with Bobby Aldegari. We started Olympian Mogul Camp
Okay.
up in Blackcomb.
And what year did you guys start that?
That was '93.
Okay. 93.
Yeah. And then we both kind of went our separate ways, and I started Mogul Logic
Okay.
with my wife, Kristen
Hmm.
Brown Martin, and we ran Mogul Logic for 12 years after that up in Blackcomb.
Yep.
And then I kind of have done other things like video production and then I've been a music teacher. I've always been very passionate about music as well. So I have a music education degree, and I find a lot of similar satisfaction that I get out of practicing instruments.
And what is that similar satisfaction? Is it focusing on kind of that one key piece of the instrument or the music or whatever it is? And is that part of that translation for you?
Yeah, it's very much the same
Okay.
as um, athletics, because it is athletic. It's physical, it's
Sure.
physical and mental. But yeah, you have to break it down into tasks and work on one task at a time, and um, it's very much the same as athletics that way. I get the same satisfaction
Gotcha.
out
Yeah.
there. And as I grow older, I'm able to, it's something I can physically do still and work
Hmm.
hard at.
Hmm. So you'd say that was something that really differentiated you kind of from some of the group think and everything else. I mean, it was one of those things for me as a camper and as a young athlete, like the first time showing up to Mogul Logic and having these sheets about whether it's visualization or focusing on exercise or all these different things. It was a world to me that at that time, 12, 13 years old, I didn't even know like existed. I
Yeah.
remember one of our first or second days there, like after we had skied on the hill, we went back and all the campers, we met in a room and we sat and closed our eyes and visualized for the first time. I was like, I didn't even know like that this was a thing that I could like visualize and potentially see you know, my results, or be able to figure, you know, that I can achieve what I want to through mental visualization, and I can actually change the day to day, not just on the hill, but there's so much like off the hill that you can do. And I mean, it's funny, I was going through reading this. I mean, it is really, really detailed. You know,
Yes.
you can tell there's a lot of love and a lot of work put into these documents, you know, these different, whether it's mental difference visualization or workouts, and it just really shows your detail and kind of your passion for it.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, passion, you know, our passion is in that writing and what we were teaching. And, you know, and I consider myself nowadays, consider myself to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what I do. I'm a teacher, and I teach music, not as much music right now because I'm back into coaching full time, but you know, I'm a teacher, and I think as a teacher, ultimately you're teaching something you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some teachers are maybe not teaching what they're totally passionate about, but so yeah, there's a lot of passion in all of that stuff that we wrote for camp, and all of those sessions off the hill, which I consider to be some of the most important teaching that I do, is off the hill. You know, I think watching video of World Cup athletes, teaching visualization. I'm an avid meditator, although I've gone in a little bit in and out of that over the years, but I've always stuck with it. It's a big part of my life, and I discovered that through sports psychology, through my own curiosity about sports psychology and being my best. And yeah, relaxation techniques. I still do that with my Winter Park group, and the visualization. You know, visualizing success. Like you've got to see it to believe it.
Yep.
I think. You know.
No, absolutely. Yeah. No, like I said, it's amazing to be able to look back on this, and like I said, I've used it from time to time to awesome. Really yeah, no, it's a great guide, and really appreciate that. And I still have the video, some of the instructional videos, so it's been good to show some of the athletes, you know, the good angulation, knee roll, some of those drills on the flat. So those videos are still getting used, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's still relevant, you know. I think it's still relevant.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think you know, my son Charlie's 17, and he's an avid mogul skier. He loves it. He loves the whole like social part of it, the freestyle family, and he's into it. And so this year, getting back into coaching full time at Winter Park, I dug into my Mogul Logic folder. You know, I've got a folder like that thick, everything that I've saved. So I was getting back into it, pulling out stuff to share this fall, and I felt really good, proud as a dad. I shared, I think what you were just showing me, like the mental difference.
Yeah.
I shared that with Charlie, and he read through it, and he said, "That's pure gold. That's pure gold." When he read through it, and it's not like him to say that, so I was proud.
No, it is. Charlie's right. Yeah. No, pure gold.
So now, yeah. The mind hasn't changed. The moguls have changed. You know, the shape of the moguls have changed, but you know, timing and body position has not changed. And
no, definitely not.
Things we need to work on have not changed.
Nope, definitely still all those same fundamentals.
Right.
Now, for you getting into some of those details and everything else, I mean, was that always as a little kid, or is that something you kind of learned through being with that group in Killington and just going out and like, I really want to, this is a fun group, we're getting better, and this is really the more detailed I can be, I can pass these guys? Or how did that kind of start for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been a pretty focused person. And I had a coach, Herb Weiland. I don't know if you know Herb Weiland, but he's a judge back east now. But he was like one of the older guys on the Killington team when I was a little kid. So he would coach us. and ran into her recently, and he said, you were just the focused kid in the group. He said, the kids would be fooling around, doing different things, but you were always just focused. You were right there, focused the entire time. So that was his input, his take on me when I was a kid. So I think I have been focused. I think I look at people doing things that I'm into, whether it's musicians or whether it was skiers when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I would look at the really good skiers, and someone said this. I read this about, as far as music, like if you're a musician or you're a fan. And the simple take was, if you go to a concert and you're a fan and you're just enjoying the music, you're a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're watching the music and you are imagining yourself on that stage and wanting to do what they're doing,
mm-hmm.
then you're a musician.
Interesting.
And I would
mm-hmm.
say the same thing for skiing. I would watch the best skiers, and I didn't just watch them as a fan. I wanted to do that.
Yeah, no,
I wanted to do it. I wanted to figure out how to do that. And it wasn't enough for me just to just watch them. And I'm the same way with music now. I mean, my ship has sailed as a rock star, but I still watch great guitar players and great drummers, and I will go down the rabbit hole on YouTube to figure out, how they're doing it, and what they're doing to achieve to achieve that level.
So what are some of the favorite musicians, or what's like the instrument? If you have to...
I've been a drummer most of my life, so
okay.
That's been my call it my lifetime instrument.
Mm-hmm.
But I've really gotten into playing guitar.
Okay.
That's kind of been my passion recently. So I'll watch. There's a band called Goose. I like watching jam bands.
Okay.
There's improvisation going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's something different every time they play, and there's a skill to that, figuring out how to improvise.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Is a total skill. So this band Goose,
okay.
Rick, the guitar player, is definitely one of my favorite guitar players right now to watch. Trey Anastasio from Fish, John Mayer, Jerry Garcia, all those guys, all those guitar players. And I think Rick from Goose, you watch Goose is a relatively new jam band, but
okay.
you can tell he's studied the details. He's and those guys aren't wasted when they play. They are, the whole band is focused and
band's tight.
So yeah, so I still watch it. I want to do that. But
yeah, no. Okay, so Rick, I'm gonna have to. I haven't listened. I've obviously Fish, John Mayer, but Goose, I'm gonna have to give them them a look and check out some of the guitar play there.
Yeah, and they've got a new drummer. Their old drummer was amazing.
Okay.
But he left, which was a surprise because they're just getting really popular. He left, and their new drummer is really good. And he's from Vermont. He's from like this. He's never played with a famous band ever, and he's from Vermont, and they picked him up to.
Okay.
But anyway, I will see people doing things that I'm passionate about, and I want to figure out how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's in me. That's sort of innate in me.
So kind of piggybacking on that, I mean, who I know you touched on a little bit, obviously the group from Killington, but who else has kind of inspired you kind of throughout your journey so far? Mom and dad, or just different people to choose from?
Yeah, I mean, my parents, certainly, my parents, supported me all the way up through World Cup, and my dad, he always said, if you want to go to the Olympics, I will do what I can to support you towards that goal. And my parents didn't have a lot of money. They were, we were like lower middle class, growing up in Vermont.
Yeah.
And they definitely sacrificed, because to support me, but they knew that it was healthy for me. They knew I had the passion. They knew it was the right thing to do.
Right. They knew you kind of weren't messing around. You were, as you
Yeah,
say, focused and detailed kind of on that goal.
yeah,
Now,
yeah. So I'd say, my parents, and then
sure.
my wife Kristen,
Yeah.
um, certainly is, still supporting me as a coach. Saying, you should be coaching. She really recognizes it as a passion for me and something I should be doing. And so she's really supportive.
Yeah, KB's the best. I haven't seen her
Yeah,
in a while, but yeah, she's the best.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She's doing great. She's very, she's successful selling real estate and really, utilizes, all the stuff that we utilize in skiing in her real estate company. And I watch her break down the tasks, and she's a task master for sure.
That's awesome, and that's
Yeah.
good. That's good now, especially nowadays. There's so many different distractions out there compared
There
to what there used to
there
be.
is.
So staying on task, staying on target can be an issue for sure.
Yeah, it is really hard for the young athletes
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yep.
It's really hard for them to stay on task because, we talked about aerial training being something that takes time, but the screen time takes a lot of their time. So take away half of that screen time and have them ski on the flats and
Yeah, that would be
kick an
just
ass.
half would be great. Yeah, if you're able to
Right.
get that time would be awesome.
Yeah.
One of those things I know you talked about a little bit earlier, kind of just breezed over it, but I wanted to ask you about was just your ACL injury and just kind of I always think it's really one of those important things to kind of touch on is just the perseverance kind of throughout your career. Being able to achieve the Olympics and the career that you had. I mean, I'm sure you certainly had a lot of setbacks, which I know most people don't really want to talk about, but I feel like that's where you can have some of the biggest growth in your career is
Absolutely.
from those setbacks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, for me, when I blew out my knee in 1988, or it was actually the December 87.
Okay.
The 1988 Calgary Olympics was coming up. Um, that was the
When it was
first
the exhibition, right? That was when it was going to
exhibition,
be. Yep.
first exhibition, and I was probably third in line. There was only two athletes who were going to go
Hmm.
to that, and Desovich and John Witt. No, Desovich Carmichael. I should know that. Lee was Desovich Carmichael. But I could be wrong on that. But Desovich for sure.
Okay.
I was close to him at that time. But that was right before the Olympics, and I really had just been a skier up until that point, and I graduated high school in '85. I went right to World Cup. I went right to the travel,
Hmm.
and my friends were going to college, and there was a part of me that felt like I was missing out for sure. Like they were
Hmm.
going to college. I was seeing what they were doing. Um, and I was still just focused and traveling in this little world, this little World Cup world, which you
Yep.
know. And there was a part of me that really felt like I was missing out. And when I blew out my knee, I was able to go to Castleton State College that winter. I was able to sign up for classes and
Okay.
go live on campus, and I needed that. I needed to do that, and I was excited about it. And people were saying, "Oh, you must be so bummed! It's right before the Olympics. You blew out your knee," and um, that didn't really register with me. It's like I get
Interesting.
to go to school. I was genuinely excited. I'm not
Yeah.
not just saying it. And I went that winter semester. I went in the fall,
Okay.
and when I started training in the summer, um, and I went to Teen, and we were up on the Teen Glacier in France,
Okay.
and I saw skiing. I saw the mountains. I saw the whole skiing environment in a whole new light.
Really.
I can't believe I'm on top of this mountain right now. You know, So when I came back to skiing, I appreciated all of the details that skiing, being on the mountain, training, focusing, being with my skiing buddies. I realized how important that was in my life.
Interesting. So it kind of
You know,
gave you
so
that perspective. You're out,
that
and then
perspective.
like it can be taken away when. So did you kind of come to the realization over that winter that like you weren't missing that much when you kind of did give you a little
Yeah.
bit of that like, all right, college party, like this is fun, but World Cup party is probably a little bit more fun maybe.
I know I was too hard on myself to enjoy the World Cup parties enough. I was
Mm,
too hard on myself. I never felt like I was doing well enough to
gotcha.
party, on World Cup. It's kind of funny, but because I was always like, I was always hard on myself. Looking back, wish I was a little less hard on myself.
Mm,
But yes, I think I continued on to take classes in the fall. And I was right near Killington, Castleton State College, or Castleton State University now, Vermont.
mhm.
I continued to take classes in the fall. That was really important for me, even when I was training on World Cup and leading up to the Olympics. I liked using my brain, going to classes, and not just skiing.
Mhm.
I needed that. I needed to take classes, so I continued to take classes, but
Yeah.
not full time. And certainly, yeah, it did give me the perspective that I love skiing. I love being on the mountain. I love training. Love being, doing healthy things,
Mhm.
physically working out. And so I was happy to get back into skiing. But I did both.
Yeah.
And I try to encourage athletes nowadays. I think there's a mentality that, you go through high school, you're doing this mogul thing, and then you go to college and mogul skiing is over.
Mhm.
Um, and I think doing both, taking classes and training and skiing, they both complemented each other, and they're really an important part of my happiness.
Sure. No,
Was doing both.
that
Yeah.
definitely makes sense. I mean, one of the things I think that changed, especially towards like the tail end of my career as an athlete, is that you used to have several different avenues to be able to make the U.S. ski team. Like,
Right.
nationals meant a lot. If you won U.S. nationals, I think it was if you were top three, if you were on the podium, if you won, you were guaranteed B team spots, which would be full World Cup, almost full funding. Same
Yeah.
thing, if you won duels, you made the ski team. If you were top three on NORAMs, you made the ski team.
Yeah.
If you won junior world championships in either singles or duels, you made the U.S. ski team.
Right.
If you won U.S. selections, you didn't just get starts; you were also on the U.S. ski team.
Yeah.
What else was there?
Kind of the way it was back in our day too. Yeah.
And so you
I totally.
had multiple of these different avenues to be able to. You used to be able to make it off the points list too. So if you were top 9 on the points list, singles or duels, you'd be able to make the U.S. team. And so it really you had all these different avenues to be able to make it. So I mean, I had multiple people that skied till they were like 29, 30 that were still following kind of their passion and everything else. And I think that helped. At least it seemed, especially on the regional level, like there was so much depth because you had to go through ski those regional events. And I know the first regional event that I ever won, I think the top 12 skiers all had made finals at a NORAM. So it wasn't like it,
Right.
I mean, it was just like you really earned, whether it was a regional event. And then slowly but surely they kind of chipped away at a lot of those different things. So it went from top 9 to top 7. And now I don't think the points list even matters. And then it went from
It's
top
neat.
3 on the NORAM store to top 2 to top 1. And then my last season, it became kind of age based, where if you were born in a certain year and all you needed to do, I think, was get 2 top 6s on NORAMs, and you made the U.S. team. So there are a bunch of like us old, I was 25, I think 24, 25 my last year, and was like had top 6s at NORAMs, but was too old to make, so it was kind of an interesting. And I feel like that's now how the criteria is set up, where if you're not on the team by, 17, 18, well then, yeah, you should just go to school. Because there's no way you can make the ski team now, which is kind of an interesting. And I know originally the part of the reason they were trying to do it is to find that next, Jeremy Bloom or Travis Mayer or whoever else, Nick Page, kind of that young Cole McDonald talent coming up. But I feel like it took away from some of those elder people, as you say, a lot of the kids in Winter Park or just across. I mean, I agree. They really, after high school, it's like, all right, if I'm not doing this, maybe I'll do 1 year of post high school and then go to school, because there's no real avenues for me to continue this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a financial commitment.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people that, I tell parents, at Winter Park, if you had a timeline and you just took away the financial part of it, took away school,
mm-hmm.
just looked at human development,
Yeah.
We really, in mogul skiing, we don't really reach our peak, I don't think, until like maybe 24.
Mm-hmm.
24. So I think the kids that are graduating high school, just purely on a physical timeline, no other considerations.
Sure.
They're just at the beginning of the next step. They're physically mature. They've put in, probably not their 10,000 hours, but they put in, thousands of hours.
Yep. A lot of volume, a lot of time.
And they're just physically starting the next level,
mm-hmm.
And they're retiring. Yeah. So, but I do understand that there's financial.
Sure.
It's a financial commitment. And if your parents say, you got to go to school, I can't financially support you, it's tough. It's tough to continue. So yeah, I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I think there's a lot of skiers that after high school might really start hitting their stride.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by 23, 24, could be top World Cup skiers.
Well, I mean, you look at it, you have those people, and everyone's career is different, but you have people that might peak later on. Maybe they're not mature earlier, and then they stick with it and they continue to, I always tell a lot of the athletes, your career is not just this. It's a lot of like up and down. And remember, Travis Cabral won U.S. Nationals at 15 years old. You think like, oh my God, this guy's going to win the next 10 world championships and whatever, like gold medals. And he had an unbelievable career, but for,
he was a world
champion and, Olympian, and had an unbelievable career. But just the expectations of when you do something like that and break through at 15 are sky high. And you kind of think like, oh, I mean, he still was youngest ever to win a globe. Until Mick Kingsbury came along and took that from him, but he had it for.
Yeah. I think, Travis is an interesting story. I remember he came to Olympian mogul camp.
Okay.
When he was 11. And I had never seen a skier ski like him at that age. I mean, he was still to this day
really
the best 11-year-old I've ever seen. Absorption, just up to the chest absorption and timing, natural timing. It's pretty amazing. And I think a lot of times the prodigies don't pan out in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
They don't pan out. I think when, around the age of 15, they don't know how to work hard because they didn't have to. They're winning all the events.
Sure. Yeah.
And then there's a lot of athletes they're good athletes that weren't winning all the events. I was one of those.
Mm-hmm.
I was very middle of the pack, 11, 12 years old.
Okay.
Very like middle of the pack. And then at the age of 15, I broke out, went to my first nationals and got a top 10, got 8th place at 15 years old. And so a lot of times those prodigies don't pan out, but Travis did. And I was use him as an example. I'm like, he's a prodigy that panned out, was a world champion.
But it was that kind of group, right? It was him at 15, and then right behind him you had Bloom and Mayer. They were kind of all packed in together. I think they were a year older.
Hard workers.
I mean, just
Bloom and Mayer.
Yeah.
Hard workers. both of those guys worked on all the details, and yeah, respect those guys.
Yeah, no, unbelievable to that little pack of three that kind of came through there. Well, I really appreciate you kind of taking the time and coming on. This has been awesome to get to chat. One thing kind of before we go that I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about was just your Olympic experience and being able to go through and be one of the first Olympians for the U.S. in '92, and it was a full-time Moguls is in the Olympics, and kind of just speak a little bit about what that whole journey was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. That was, I mean, as far as the event, it was and other Olympians would probably say the same thing. It was like another World Cup, because it was the same group that we competed against every week. And it was in teen, and we always went to teen for those events. But it was the Olympics, it was special. It was, 16 years of training to get there. And it still is a huge part of my life. Just it's opened a lot of doors for me being an Olympian, and so yeah, and it was amazing to be there and to go to the other events, and to have the support from our hometown in Killington, and still to this day, I carry that. They say you're always an Olympian. I do feel that. I feel like I carry that with me. And then, as far as the event goes, and that event is actually on YouTube now.
I've seen, yep.
It's labeled Edgar Grossborough wins the gold medal. So I came across that, and I had actually never seen finals.
Oh, really?
It was never on TV. Wow. So I watched that recently. But I would say, as far as that day, the final run, I feel like I should have skied more to win. I think I skied a bit with a fear of falling, and I should have skied for the love of winning. And I think you can break down everything in life and our perspective, our paradigm, we can do things out of love, or we can do them out of fear. And we can choose that. So we can choose to ski a run. You could either ski a run in the Olympics saying, I don't want to fall in the Olympics. I just don't want to fall in the Olympics. That's skiing out of fear. Or you can ski out of the love of winning and or the love of doing your best. So I feel like I just ski conservative. And looking back, I wish I pushed it a little bit more on that day. But it helps me to have that perspective.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic perspective. I appreciate you sharing that with me and with everybody on here listening.
Yeah, and I say, and one more thing I would add is just as a coach right now, really looking at Ikuma as the technique to work on. And I always thought Yane and the Finn technique, the turn of the century was the technique to work on, and Yane's teaching Ikuma and that Japanese team. And I really think that is the style. That's the style I'm shooting for as a coach.
Yeah, no. It's interesting you talk about that style, because I feel, it's one of the things, at least coming up, that, it is freestyle. And I think each and every athlete coming through needs to have that ability, at least in my opinion, of that creativity, right? I always wanted like some of that absorption extension of Jean-Luc, but then some different, upper body of you kind of pick and choose of what you want your turn or your skiing to look like. And I think that's you get a lot of the kids nowadays that don't know their history too well, or just like, hey, this kind of looks fun. And several of the questions I've asked is like, well, what do you want to ski like? Well, I don't know, just whatever you tell me.
And like, wow. Nowadays, the beauty of YouTube nowadays.
Yeah.
Same thing with music, but yeah, YouTube, you can go back and look at Jean-Luc. I was just watching the World Championships '99 when the Finns were were 1, 2, 3, top 3. You know,
Yeah.
World championships, and Miko blew out. Miko probably could have been in there in the top 4 as well. And Stefan Rochon, in my opinion, got way underscored that event.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting watching 97. Those guys go through and kind of, because the Canadians dominated in 97 right before the Olympics. And it was interesting I had Peter Judge on the podcast before, and he talked about how they had the exact same plan. It was like, all right, 97, we got like 4 golds, aerials, men's, mogul, the women's, and they crushed it. And all right, same plan going into next year. And then no medals at 98. So it was interesting to talk to him about kind of his learning experience through that. But yeah, going back and being able to watch all those old videos is fantastic. They need to get some pro tour events on there.
Yeah. Somebody just posted some of the Bud Tour events.
Okay,
good. What that's under. There's a name you can look up and then bring up all those events. But yeah, those are posted. Yeah, Peter Judge, another big influence for me.
Oh, great. Yeah, Peter's
awesome. He was Canadian coach and was always really supportive of me, even though I was a U.S. team skier. But he was a great coach and really, just supportive. And I appreciated him for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's been an awesome time. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast, and look forward to hopefully getting to see you soon, and maybe we'll do this all over again.
Yeah, no, sounds good. I'll get in and listen to some of your podcasts.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Chuck. I really appreciate it.
Great. See you. Great to talk to you, Bobby.
All right. Bye, everybody.